We don't have a service department because we just get so few returns. The number one criteria for everything we do is sound quality. Every customer who has an Avid product is delighted with it and what it does and how it performs.
Conrad Mas, thank you for joining us today with Audio Grade. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about Avid, about the products you make, and about your company's history.
Yep.
And just thinking about that history, because some of our viewers will be less aware of who you are and what you do, could you just summarise your history and Avid's approach?
Well, I started when I was 16. A friend of mine introduced me to a record player. Didn't really have any interest before then, but when I came into contact with this record player, it released, if you like, an obsession, and that led me on a path to eventually basically developing our first product, which was the ethos turntable. That took 20 years of a parallel life, and from there, because Avid is my train set, as I say, that's basically enabled me to move into other record players and then phono stages, amplifiers, speakers, tonearms, cartridges.
And thinking back to that turntable, was it that got you interested in hi-fi? Was it the music? What led to that obsession, if you like?
No, I was interested in music before then. I was a typical kid where I'd go to bed listening to Radio Caroline in a little earpiece. So I was interested in music, but I didn't have any really knowledge of audio equipment and how much it would improve someone's appreciation of what they're listening to. I found it quite amazing that you could listen to a piece of music and it would almost sound completely different on a really good piece of equipment, because you'd start to hear things and you'd see background tunes and things going on you could even hear on, say, a small little radio. So that got me interested, and then when I started to develop my own turntable, which initially was just for my own personal use, there was never a pretense of going into business or anything like that. As that developed and it got to a certain stage and people started to say, you know, that could probably sell, you know, I then started actually showing prototypes to the press and getting feedback and stuff like that. But basically keeping true to my original ideas of how it should be and how it would develop. And that's when the ethos turntable was born.
If you were to sum up sort of what's special about Avid, what do you think makes your kind of ethos so unique?
I think in today's world, there's a lot of companies that make a product and they're given a brief. And that brief is that it's got to be in a certain budget, it's got to have so many features, and it's got to look in a certain way. And there's a checklist of things, and sound quality is pretty much sort of like number 5 or 6 on that list. When I go around hi-fi shows, the equipment that I hear and the sounds that I hear, to me, genuinely sound, it's just hi-fi. It doesn't sound like music. It doesn't make me want to sit there and go, wow, and I don't feel the bass punch me, and I don't feel anything. It's just very clear and very transparent noise. Whereas the number one criteria for everything we do is sound quality. It needs to make me want to sit there and smile and want to listen to the next record. My line is based on me and what I would listen to. So, you know, I make what I think is exceptionally good and makes me want to listen more and more. And we've got obviously customers who feel in the same way, who buy our equipment.
We're here at Huntingdon in your HQ. We've just had a factory tour. How much you do here on site is incredible. We've seen the machines you use. We've seen how you make the mil-spec circuit boards. We've seen the levels you go to for that polished finish or the finish on stainless and other materials.
Yep.
You do so much here on site, which is not like many other manufacturers at this level.
So our background is totally design orientated. So we design the equipment in the initial stage when it was just me designing the equipment, and engineering came on at a later stage. So this was a new thing that we learnt and we brought into our sphere. And the reason that we did that primarily is because we're in total control. Whenever you outsource anything, that's when problems generally occur. So the more that we can have in our control, the better that we can produce a better product, more reliable, better sounding, better made, because we control every aspect of the production. We manufacture all our printed circuit boards from bare board. We populate to mil spec, as you say, do all hand soldering, do all the assembly work. We do full testing. And for that reason, we don't have a service department, because we just get so few returns. You're better off making it right and perfect first time, so that you don't have these problems, and then the customer doesn't have the frustration of losing his equipment for however period of time.
You were saying earlier, which that stuck in my head, you build things intentionally to not come back, which I think is a nice way to phrase the longevity of the product and the lifespan you give it when it leaves the factory, and what goes in it to get it to
absolutely.
to that level.
And we don't build in obsolescence either. In this day and age, there's a big thing of building in obsolescence into a product so that someone's going to buy a new one. Every customer who has an Avid product is delighted with it and what it does and how it performs.
It's coming up to 30 years. Congratulations on that anniversary, fast approaching.
Yeah.
What have been the biggest sort of challenges and changes perhaps you've seen during that period of time?
Well, the industry, when I first started, was very analog based. CD hadn't come along. It went through a phase, particularly when CD came along, where it was very easy. Everything was plug and play. There was less customer focus. It was very much just about shifting a box. Whereas in the old days, you would have to go to a customer's house, set up the turntable, set up the cartridge and things like that. Turntables coming back has been a great thing. But it's really shown up now that a lot of the people who had the knowledge to set up turntables, how to mix and match arms and cartridges and things like that, all that information and knowledge has gone. There's much more an aim for more plug and play type products. So we're leaning into making that type of product. However, we're still keeping our roots firmly down, where we offer products as packages, but ones that you can change and swap and move things about. But also I think that knowledge is now coming back into the industry as there's more of a groundswell towards playing records.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting concept, plug and play in the high end, which hasn't really, it's been frowned upon, but why not? Can't have this conversation without talking about the fact that you've recently released finally your own range of tone arms, the Altus and the Nexus. I think lots of Avid customers were delighted. They can have a full Avid rig if you like, particularly with an Avid cartridge. What was the thinking behind those? The
whole thing about Avid, if you like, our design philosophy, is that there's essentially good vibration, which is what you want to hear, and bad vibration, which distorts what you should be hearing. What we do is we basically build into all of our products a path of least resistance, where we can get that bad vibration away from where the music is being picked up. So it leaves you with just the good vibration that you can hear. That same philosophy we've embodied within our tone arms as well. So our tone arms are almost like a conductor of vibration, efficiently getting vibration away from the cartridge as rapidly as possible. And I think there's a lot of tone arms that do that less effectively because of their much older design, and they're looking at damping and various other things which unfortunately don't give you a very linear sound. All our tone arms have a very linear sound, so they're easy to move and what have you. With cartridges, well, cartridges was an interesting thing because we did tread down the path of, like most people who maybe make turntables or arms and they suddenly come out with a cartridge, where they go to a cartridge manufacturer and they effectively buy a cartridge under an OEM agreement and just stick their name on it. We did get some samples, but I'll be honest, I sat there and I just said, look, this just isn't us. We design everything and we make it, and I don't want to just buy something and stick some of my name on it. So we actually were fortunate enough to be put in touch with a cartridge manufacturer in Japan, and we went through literally every element of a cartridge, comparing everything from cantilevers to styluses to coils to magnets to everything. And we basically came up with our own recipe of this is how our cartridge should be put together. And then we designed the body, and we actually manufacture the body, the chokes, and we manufacture basically 95% of the cartridge, but it is truly our design rather than just another cartridge put together under some agreement. It comes back to, we design each product to be able to stand on its own 2 feet, and if you design a product to be neutral and to work perfectly in its own right, you can then mix it seamlessly with other products that are designed to be perfect and stand on their own 2 feet.
And I did find that personally with the Nexus tone arm, because it is genuinely mid effective mass with a lot of arms that actually are low effective mass that will only work really with a narrower range of cartridges.
Right.
So with the Nexus, it's much more usable with a wider range of pickups, which made it ideal for me as a reviewer.
Yes. Yeah.
And final question, where do you see Avid in either 5 or 10 years' time?
Our product range isn't probably going to change hugely at all. Like I said, we designed the product to have longevity and be very, very good for a long period of time. I think where I would like to see Avid in 5, 10 years' time is probably more recognition in the market and more consumers having access to listen to our product. I think that we're at that stage now where we're more confident about our products in the market, and we're pushing our brand name a lot harder. And we do have lots of customers who like our equipment because they like what they buy rather than the name that's stamped on it. And hopefully in the next sort of 5 to 10 years, there'll be more customers that will feel in that same way.
And I look forward to seeing Avid go from strength to strength over the next 5 and 10 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Conrad Mas, great to chat.
Thank you.